The night was thick with the kind of humidity that sticks to your skin and makes every breath feel heavy. However, inside the dimly lit bar on the edge of town, laughter and glasses clinking filled the air. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reed and Petty Officer First Class Jasmine Carter, two Navy SEALs returning from a grueling deployment, were scheduled to have a night off. They had chosen this out-of-the-way location due to its anonymity. No medals or missions, just good music and cold beer. However, the mood changed as midnight approached. A local troublemaker named Rick Dalton, known for his loud mouth and even louder friends, started making comments that grew uglier with every round. At first, Marcus and Jasmine ignored him, focused on their own conversation. But when Rick shoved a waitress and called her a name that made the whole bar go silent, Marcus stood up. He said, calmly but with the weight of command, "That's enough." Rick sneered, sizing up Marcus's athletic build and the quiet confidence in his eyes. "Who do you think you are?" He spat. Jasmine stepped in, her tone even sharper. "He's the guy who's going to make you regret acting like a fool." The bartender, sensing trouble, tried to defuse the situation, but Rick wasn't having it. Rick swung his fist in the air as he lunged at Marcus, but Marcus evaded him easily and snatched Rick's arm behind his back with practiced efficiency. Jasmine helped the waitress to her feet, checking for injuries. Although the fight lasted less than a minute, Rick was humiliated and red-faced by the time it was over, and his friends were yelling for someone to call the police. Officer Brad Connors arrived at that point. Local police officer Connors was known for being tough on outsiders, and even more so when he thought his authority was being challenged. He swaggered into the bar, hand on his holster, eyes scanning the room until they landed on Marcus and Jasmine. "What's going on here?" he yelled. Rick, still rubbing his arm, pointed at Marcus. "They attacked me. For no reason." Connors didn't bother to ask for witnesses or check the security cameras. He saw two out-of-towners, one black man and one black woman, and a local with a bruised ego. That was all he needed. "You two, hand behind your backs," he ordered, pulling out his cuffs. Marcus tried to explain, but Connors cut him off. "I said hands behind your backs. Now!" Jasmine's jaw clenched, but she complied, exchanging a look with Marcus that said more than words ever could. As Connors cuffed him, the bartender protested. "Officer, you're wrong about that. They were helping." But Connors ignored him, hauling Marcus and Jasmine out into the muggy night and shoving them into the back of his cruiser. The ride to the station was silent, except for the crackle of the police radio and the sound of Connors muttering under his breath. At the station, things only got worse. Connors booked them for assault and resisting arrest, ignoring their request to call their commanding officer or even a lawyer. With a smirk, he tossed him into a holding cell and slammed the door. His tone was one of disdain, and he began by saying, "Welcome to my town. You're not so tough now, are you?" Marcus sat on the cold metal bench, his mind racing. He'd faced warlords and terrorists, but this was different. This was home, and the enemy wore a badge. Jasmine paced the cell, her anger simmering just below the surface. "He's not going to get away with this," she said, her voice low. "We just have to hold on." Hours passed. The sun rose, casting harsh light through the barred window. Connors strutted by their cell, coffee in hand, enjoying their discomfort. "You two are in for a world of trouble," he taunted. "Assaulting a local hero? The judge is going to throw the book at you." Marcus didn't respond. He knew better than to give Connors the satisfaction. Instead, he focused on remembering every detail, every word, every face. He knew the Navy would come looking for them, but he also knew that time was not on their side. Meanwhile, word of the arrest began to spread. In a desperate attempt to get someone's attention, the bartender called the base. Within hours, the story reached Admiral Jonathan Hayes, the commanding officer of both Marcus and Jasmine. Hayes was a man who believed in justice, in loyalty, and in never leaving a sailor behind. When he heard what had happened, he wasted no time. He put on his dress uniform, gathered his staff, and headed straight for courthouse. Back at the station, Connors was preparing his report, embellishing the story to make himself look like the hero. He didn't notice the growing crowd outside or the news van setting up across the street. He had no idea that the door would open and Admiral Hayes would enter, earning him instant respect. The desk sergeant snapped to attention, stammering a greeting. "Admiral Hayes, sir. What brings you here?" Hayes's eyes were cold as steel. "I'm here for my sailors." "Where are they?" Surprised, Connors attempted to regain control. "Sir, these two are under arrest for assault. They attacked a local." Hayes fixed him with a stare that could freeze fire. "Is that true? I would like to see the proof." "All of it. Now." Connors hesitated, but the weight of the Admiral's authority was undeniable. He handed over files, his hands shaking. Hayes flipped through the paperwork, his frown deepening with every page. No statement by witnesses, no security footage, just your word and the word of a man with a record as long as my arm. Connors swallowed hard, realizing too late that he was in over his head. Hayes turned to the desk sergeant. "Release my sailors. Now!" The sergeant didn't hesitate. Within minutes, Marcus and Jasmine were free, standing tall beside their admiral. Connors tried to protest, but Hayes silenced him with a single look. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, officer, but you're about to find out." As they walked out of the station, the crowd erupted in cheers. The story was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted. For the first time, Connors felt a flicker of fear. He'd picked the wrong fight, and now the whole world was watching. The courthouse was buzzing with tension the next morning, the kind that made every footstep echo a little louder and every whispered conversation feel like it carried the weight of a verdict. By the time Marcus and Jasmine arrived, escorted by Admiral Hayes, the steps were crowded with reporters, locals, and a few off-duty sailors who had come to show their support. News of the arrest had spread like wildfire. Inside, Officer Connors was already waiting, his uniform pressed, his jaw set in a defiant line. He'd spent the night trying to shore up his story, calling in favors and leaning on his reputation as a protector of community. But the cracks were already showing. The bartender from the bar had come forward, along with a waitress and several other patrons, all ready to testify that Marcus and Jasmine had done nothing wrong. Still, Connors clung to his narrative, convinced that his badge and his connections would shield him from the truth. The harsh woman judge, known for her fairness and sharp eyes, called the court to order. Connors took the stand first, spinning a tale of two aggressive strangers who had attacked a local hero without provocation. He described how he'd bravely intervened, risking his own safety to restore order. But as the defense began to question him, his story started to unravel. The bartender testified next, his voice steady as he described what really happened. Marcus and Jasmine didn't start anything, he said. They stopped Rick from hurting someone. They ought to be thanked, not arrested, if anything. His account was repeated by the still shaken but determined waitress. They protected me. Officer Connors never even asked what happened. He simply bound them and left. The judge listened intently, her gaze flicking between Connors and the witnesses. When it was Marcus's turn to speak, he stood tall, his navy bearing unmistakable. "Your Honor, we acted to protect someone in danger. We followed the law, and we tried to de-escalate the situation. We attempted to contact our commanding officer, but were turned down. Jasmine's testimony was just as compelling. We served this country to protect people, not to cause trouble. We were treated like criminals for doing the right thing." The courtroom was silent as Admiral Hayes approached the stand, his medals gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He spoke with calm authority, outlining Marcus and Jasmine's outstanding service records, their dedication to duty, and the fundamental values of honor, bravery, and dedication that the Navy upholds. "These sailors have risked their lives for this nation," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "They should be treated with respect, not suspicion. They also require justice." The judge nodded, clearly moved. But Connors wasn't done. Desperate, he tried to introduce new evidence, grainy photos, half-formed accusations, anything to cast doubt. But each attempt was met with calm, factual rebuttals from the defense. The prosecutor, sensing the tide turning, began to distance himself from Connors, focusing instead on the facts. The turning point came when the security footage from the bar was finally produced. The video showed everything. Rick Dalton's aggression, Marcus and Jasmine's restraint, and Connors' hasty, biased arrest. The judge paused the video, her expression unreadable. Officer Connors, do you have any explanation for why you ignored multiple witnesses and failed to review this footage before making your arrest? Connors stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. I thought I was doing the right thing, Your Honor. The judge's voice was cold. You thought wrong. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The room was filled with Admiral Hayes' presence as he stood. With your permission, Your Honor, I'd like to request that all charges against my sailors be dropped immediately and that an investigation into Officer Connors' conduct be opened. The judge gave a nod. Request granted. Charges are dismissed. Officer Connors, you are hereby suspended pending a full inquiry. The relief in the room was palpable. Marcus and Jasmine embraced, their ordeal finally over. Connors, pale and shaken, was led from the courtroom, his world collapsing around him. Outside, the crowd cheered as Marcus and Jasmine emerged, flanked by Admiral Hayes and their fellow sailors. Reporters shouted questions, but the only answer that mattered was the truth. Justice had prevailed. That night, the town was alive with conversation. Some people defended Connors, unwilling to let go of old prejudices. But many more celebrated the courage of two sailors who had stood up for what was right, and the admiral who had refused to let them be railroaded by a corrupt system. Marcus and Jasmine considered everything that had transpired in the quiet of their hotel room. We could have lost everything, Jasmine whispered. Marcus gave a grateful nod with his eyes shining. But we didn't, because we had each other, and because we had someone who believed in us. Admiral Hayes joined them for a quiet dinner, his words simple but profound. You did the Navy proud. You did this country proud. Never forget that. As the night wore on, the weight of the ordeal began to lift. They were aware that Connors still had high-ranking friends and that the fight for real justice was far from over, that there would be difficulties. But for the first time since their arrest, Marcus and Jasmine felt hope. They had faced down corruption and won. Not with violence or anger, but with truth, honor, and the unwavering support of their admiral. And as they drifted off to sleep, they knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, stronger than ever. The aftermath of the courtroom drama rippled far beyond the courthouse walls, sending shockwaves through the small town and the local police department. News outlets picked up the story, headlines blaring about the corrupt cop who tried to railroad two Navy SEALs, and the admiral who had come to their rescue. Social media exploded with support from Marcus and Jasmine, with hashtags like hashtag Justice for Ourselves and hashtag accountability now trending nationwide. The mayor, under pressure from both the public and the Navy, called for a full investigation into Officer Connors' conduct and the broader practices of the police department. For Marcus and Jasmine, the days that followed were a whirlwind of interviews, meetings, and moments of quiet reflection. They were hailed as heroes by some, symbols of resilience and integrity in the face of injustice. However, they were also met with opposition from a vocal minority who viewed Connors as a scapegoat and resented the attention the case had brought to their community. Through it all, Admiral Hayes remained a steady presence, guiding them through the media storm and reminding them to stay true to their values. The world is watching, he told them. How you carry yourselves now matters just as much as how you carried yourselves in that bar. Meanwhile, the investigation into Connors uncovered a pattern of misconduct stretching back years, unlawful arrests, falsified reports, and a history of targeting outsiders and minorities. Several other officers came forward, emboldened by the Admiral's intervention, to share their own stories of Connors' abuse of power. The police chief, facing mounting evidence and public outrage, had no choice but to suspend Connors without pay and launch a department-wide review. The town council held emergency meetings, inviting citizens to share their experiences and propose reforms. Marcus and Jasmine attended, speaking on behalf of everyone who had ever been silenced or mistreated, as well as for themselves. With a steady tone, Marcus declared, "This isn't just about us. It's about making sure no one else has to go through what we did." Jasmine added, "We love this country. We serve because we believe in justice. But justice has to start at home." Their words resonated, sparking a movement for change that reached far beyond the town's borders. The Navy, proud of their sailors' courage, offered Marcus and Jasmine commendations for their conduct under pressure. Admiral Hayes, ever the mentor, used the opportunity to advocate for stronger partnerships between the military and local law enforcement, emphasizing the importance of mutual respect and accountability. As the weeks passed, the town began to change. The police department implemented new training programs focused on de-escalation and community engagement. A civilian oversight board was established to review complaints and ensure transparency. The bar where it all began became a symbol of unity, hosting fundraisers for local charities and inviting veterans to share their stories. For Marcus and Jasmine, the experience was transformative. They had faced the worst of a broken system and emerged stronger, their bond deepened by adversity. They shared their story as a lesson in courage, resilience, and the power of standing up for what is right, and became mentors for younger sailors. Admiral Hayes continued to check in, his pride in them evident. He told them, "You turn a moment of injustice into a catalyst for change." That's what leadership looks like. Not everyone was happy. Of course, Connors, a supporter, staged protests, claiming he was a victim of a witch hunt. But their numbers dwindled as more evidence came to light, and the town's focus shifted from division to healing. Marcus and Jasmine never lost sight of what mattered most, their commitment to each other, to their team, and to the ideals they had sworn to uphold. One evening, as they walked along the waterfront, watching the sun set over the harbor, Jasmine turned to Marcus and smiled. "We made it," she said softly. Marcus squeezed her hand, his heart full. "We did, and we're not done yet." The fight for justice was ongoing, but they faced it with renewed hope. No one had to support their community, their admiral, and each other. The story of two Navy SEALs, a corrupt cop, and an admiral's unwavering resolve had become more than just a headline. It was a testament to the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the enduring promise of justice for all. Months passed, and the story that had once gripped the nation slowly faded from the headlines, but its impact lingered in the town and in the lives of everyone involved. Officer Connors, stripped of his badge and facing criminal charges, became a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked authority and the importance of accountability. The police department, now under new leadership, worked hard to rebuild trust with the community, holding open forums and inviting residents to participate in shaping new policies. Marcus and Jasmine, though offered transfers and even early retirement, chose to stay in the area, determined to be part of the healing process. They gave their time as volunteers to local schools, telling students about their experiences and inspiring them to fight for what was right, no matter what the cost. Their story inspired a new generation of young people to consider careers in public service, law enforcement, and the military, not out of desire for power, but out of a commitment to justice and service. Admiral Hayes, now a frequent visitor to the town, became a beloved figure, often seen at community events and veterans gatherings. He never missed an opportunity to remind people that true leadership meant protecting the vulnerable and holding the powerful to account. The bar where it all began became a symbol of the town's transformation, its walls adorned with photos of Marcus, Jasmine, and Admiral Hayes, alongside messages of gratitude from residents and visitors alike. The waitress whose life they saved that night became a close friend, and her gratitude serves as a constant reminder of the impact that a single brave act can have. The Civilian Oversight Board, once viewed with suspicion, became a trusted institution, its members working tirelessly to ensure that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. The town's annual Independence Day Parade, once a simple affair, now featured Marcus and Jasmine as Grand Marshals, their presence a testament to the power of resilience and the enduring spirit of service. As the years went by, the lessons of that fateful night continued to shape the community. The tale of the Admiral and the two Navy SEALs who stood up to injustice and refused to be forgotten was passed down to children. The town, once divided by fear and suspicion, became a model for others, its journey from scandal to renewal studied by cities across the country. Marcus and Jasmine found a new rhythm in their lives. They built a home, started a family, and found peace in the knowledge that they had made a difference. The adversity that brought them together strengthened their bond over time. They never forgot the pain and fear of those dark days, but they also never forgot the outpouring of support and the sense of purpose that had carried them through. On quiet evenings, they would sit on their porch, watching the world go by, grateful for the second chance they had been given. As they talked about the battles they had fought and the victories they had achieved, retired Admiral Hayes frequently joined them. His laughter could be heard throughout the yard. You know, he would say, sometimes the hardest fights aren't on the battlefield. Sometimes they're right here at home. And Marcus and Jasmine would nod, knowing that the truest measure of courage is not in the medals you wear, but in the lives you touch and the change you inspire. Once a headline, their story became a legacy, a reminder that justice is a journey, not a destination, and that the fight for what is right is never truly over. Marcus, Jasmine, and Admiral Hayes made a quiet toast of the truth, justice, and the enduring power of uniting against all odds as the sun set on another peaceful day.